Hello and welcome to the Steadfast podcast. I am your host today, Megan Cannon, one of the therapists at Steadfast. And I just wanted to start with asking you a quick question. When was the last time you thought about your brain? So I would say for most of us, we probably don't spend most of our time thinking about our brain at all. Like I know I don't very often, and I am a therapist. So, but the really cool thing about your brain is that it is involved in everything that we do. So, I mean, it's involved with how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you interact with others. Your brain, it's the organ behind like your intelligence, your character, your personality, and literally every single decision you make. People with healthy brains are generally happier, healthier, more successful, and better able to get along with others. People whose brains are maybe not as healthy can often be sadder or sicker, less successful, and have more conflict in their relationships. So, right now, you may be thinking, okay, which am I? Do I have the healthy brain or do I have the unhealthy brain? And we are going to get to that. I'm going to give you some specific things to consider throughout this podcast. So, you probably might be like, well, why are you so interested in the brain? And this brain study, it kind of happened a little organically. I just started to think about, because I believe in just like a healthy lifestyle, how the brain is impacting that. And so when I started to do my research, I came across the name of Dr. Daniel Amen. And Dr. Amen is a psychiatrist, a clinical neuroscientist. He's a brain imaging specialist. He's an author, and he could probably be one of the most influential like mental health experts, advocates out there. So you may have heard of him. He's got a podcast. He's kind of all over the place. I was just really impressed by his teaching and all of his offerings that I actually ended up doing one of his trainings. And so now I'm a certified brain health trainer, which is just kind of help me learn more about the brain and also help me be able to take that knowledge into help supporting my clients. It's super fun. I've really enjoyed it. So without further ado, let's get into some specifics. So today we are going to go into the 11 major risk factors that can essentially steal your mind. The really good news is that almost all of these risk factors are either preventable or treatable. So if you feel like you're like, okay, I'm not doing a good job in some of these areas that maybe I have more on the unhealthy side of the brain, the really good news is if you did start to implement any of these things that I'm going to tell you, these strategies, then it can help your brain and that you can make changes. So when we are thinking about mental health, we know how tied together that is, and that will be one of the factors that we dip into. So you may be thinking, well, my mental health is great. And that is amazing. But you maybe say, there are some other health issues that I have concerns about. And so hopefully after hearing these risk factors that you can kind of be able to highlight some of those areas that you might want to improve on. So today, the acronym that we're going to be using is something that Dr. Amen made up, and it's called Bright Minds. So the B, let's start from the very beginning. The B stands for blood flow. Blood flow. Your brain, it needs adequate blood flow to function at its best. So without that proper circulation, you are going to be more likely to experience memory problems and brain fog. You may just think, oh, that's normal, that's just part of life. And the good news is it doesn't have to be. One of the main things that you can do to help increase your blood flow to the brain is exercise. So walking, swimming, really any kind of movement that you enjoy to get the blood pumping. Exercise, I feel like people have a really just either passion for or it's a dread. And so what I really want to encourage you is that just find something that you enjoy to move, whether that be going on a walk or a swim or going to an exercise class or lifting weights. And we know lifting weights, especially as we get older, really is good for your body. So just finding something that you can do that you may not like it, but just in the end, you can say, oh, well, hey, it's helping my brain flow, and that is a good thing. There are additionally some supplements that can help circulation that you could take. Staying hydrated, I mean, that's just a good overall rule for everything, but that definitely helps with your blood flow. Really limiting your caffeine intake. We are in a society where we are really over caffeinated. So really trying to limit that caffeine intake can be really helpful. Limiting alcohol as well. So instead of kind of upping that that extra cup of coffee maybe in the afternoon, focusing on having like a green tea, something a little bit lighter that's also helpful for blood flow. And Dr. Amen also talks about how racket sports are really good for blood flow. Just that mind, the eye, and the racket, just that connection can also help. So if you were, one of, like, I've picked up pickleball. So I feel like, hey, this is great. I'm really helping support my brain with this as well, with my love for pickleball and tennis really too. All right, so as we age, our brains naturally change, but aging doesn't have to mean like a cognitive decline. So the R stands for almost like the retirement. So the key here for someone who is of retirement age and is getting older is that you really want to stay mentally active and engaged. So being a lifelong learner, finding something maybe to learn more about, reading, trying something new, that helps keep the brain sharp. Also, staying socially connected, that can play a really huge role in brain health. So not wanting to like isolate yourself, because that can also lead to a higher decline, cognitive decline. So you really want to make sure that those relationships are strong. And if you are in a position where maybe those relationships aren't as robust as they used to be, going out and trying something new, like trying to meet other people, can also help meet new people. So if you are someone that said, hey, I want to go start a new hobby, or I want to start creating, there is a really sweet little pottery studio around the corner, and they have a retirement age pottery where people come in and paint. And I just thought, hey, that is so great that they get to not only join together in community, but they also get to keep their mind sharp and focused. So R stands for the retirement. So really making sure that you keep that cognitive function sharp by continuing to learn and take on new challenges. I, inflammation, and this is a really big one. Chronic inflammation, it's linked to a variety of brain issues, so including depression and dementia. A diet that is high in sugar and processed foods can create more inflammation. So it's really important to focus on anti-inflammatory foods. So things like leafy greens, fatty fish, and berries. Those can really help support being, the inflammatory, decreasing that. Also, dairy is also another cause of higher inflammation. And so being aware of your dairy intake if that does appear to be a problem for you. You can't forget about your gut health. So the gut and the brain, they're so closely connected. So really focusing on your digestion by taking probiotics or fiber-rich foods is very important. Something I learned that I thought was really interesting was your dental hygiene. So your gums, caring for your gums. So making sure that you're flossing daily helps reduce inflammation. So I know when I read that, I went and got some more floss and really have tried to make that a priority just to help alleviate any unnecessary inflammation. Other supplements that you could potentially look into, like vitamin B6, B12, and folate. Those can also help address any unwanted inflammation. G stands for genetics. And when we think of genetics, we think, okay, this is just how I am. But the really good news is that your genes are not your destiny. So they do play a really big role in your brain health. But that does not mean that you can't make any changes. So if you have a family with history of mental health or cognitive issues, making certain lifestyle changes and choices can really help mitigate some of these risks. So again, regular exercise, you're going to hear me say that a lot. Brain stimulating activities, having a healthy diet, that can really help turn off any bad genes that you might have and activate any protective ones that are just waiting for you to be there to support. So again, it is, if you're like, okay, well, this is just how I am, this is how my parents are, this is how my grandparents are, it is not your destiny. So you are able to make changes. Things like organic blueberries, and even if you cook with sage, those can help promote those protective genes in your brain, which I thought was really interesting. And when I think of sage, I think of this fall, winter season. So now this is a great time to start incorporating sage into some of your recipes. Isn't it just like amazing of how many of these factors are within our control? I'm just like blown away of all the things that we can do to take control of our health and our brain. And really, if you put the brain in a healing environment, it can get better. And we are in the business of trying to promote healing of your mind, of your body, of your spirit. And so hopefully this is giving you some encouragement that you can make things better if you aren't feeling your best. Okay, so let's move on to the second half of the Bright Minds model. H stands for head trauma. And this is really interesting because oftentimes we don't really can remember things that cause head trauma. So for example, like a concussion, that's a little bit more of an obvious one, and any kind of brain injury, because we know that those have like massive lasting effects on your memory, your mood, your focus. But the head trauma, it's really one of the biggest risk factors for any potential cognitive decline. So, but also wanted you to think about, like, have you ever been in a car accident? Have you ever just hit your head really hard on something? Maybe you weren't diagnosed with a concussion, but anytime you have that big impact on your head, it is considered a trauma to your head. And so be thinking about that and really take a trip down memory lane to say, hey, I did fall. I remember I fell off that swing one time and thought I was okay, maybe felt like I was a little off for a little ways, but that head trauma can have lasting effects. So if you have had a head trauma, it's really important to take care of your brain. So things like adding omega-3 supplements, getting plenty of rest, and really just being proactive and protecting your head from further injury is really critical. So wearing helmets, like when you are riding a bike or during certain sports or certain physical activities. I'm not saying like walk around with a helmet on your head 24/7, but just be aware that sometimes you are in certain environments that extra layer of protection is a good thing. And also wearing your seatbelt. I touched on that as far as like being in an accident and having your head hit like a dashboard or something, or the steering wheel, and how that can have a massive impact on your and create head trauma. Okay, T stands for toxins. Toxins, things like alcohol, drugs, environmental pollutants, these all can damage the brain. So really wanting to reduce or eliminate exposure to harmful substances is crucial, especially those that you know about. So the alcohol, that's a choice. That's a toxin we choose to put in our body. Smoking, that goes to the same thing. There are things that we may not be aware of. So some of those environmental toxins like mold or even chemicals in the household. So, I know that's sort of a hot topic, and having all of these chemicals in the house and be able to have more cleaner household products. But now it's so easy to make those swaps and being able to like reduce your amount of plastic within your house. There's a ton of research out there that helps support that. So really, being able to say, all right, this isn't just yes, I care about the environment, but I also care about myself, and I care about what I'm putting into my body, that things that are known and things that are unknown. So being aware of those extra environmental toxins is really important. Also being addressed as like what would be considered like a detoxifying lifestyle. So really focusing on, again, the foods that you're eating. So trying to eat organic foods when possible, making sure that you're cleaning your fruits and vegetables so that any of those chemicals, when they're used to clean it and grow it, aren't still on your fruits and vegetables, because that, again, that is going to be harmful to your brain. Trying to use natural cleaning products, it really can go a long way. And if you're someone that's like, I don't even know where to start, just start with one thing. Start with being able to say, oh, you know what, today I'm going to replace my plastic Tupperware with glass Tupperware. And I'm going to replace my one cleaning product that I use all the time, that I use all over the house, with something that is more of a natural. And again, you can find those at your Target. You can find those anywhere. There's also a lot of just online brands. But being aware that those changes can make a huge impact on protecting your brain. All right, here we are at M, mental health, which is obviously something we are so passionate about at Steadfast, and helping support your own mental health. But it's another essential component of your brain health. So anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, OCD, I could go on and on. Chronic stress, those are all linked to a level of brain dysfunction. So if that is something that you've struggled with, then there are things that you could do to help support that. So practicing mindfulness, obviously therapy, being able to meet with a therapist to help sort through some of those struggles that you may be having, whether it be trauma or anything anything that you feel like you're stuck in. So being able to have that therapeutic relationship is so helpful. Creating a stress-free life as much as possible, and that could be like, oh, that's hysterical, like have a stress-free life, because it's actually impossible. But how do you manage your stress? Like, do you have helpful techniques that are going to help support your stress so that you have these coping skills lined up for when stressful situations are inevitably going to try to attack you? So being able to have those set up in place that you can be able to help support your mental health, and just your overall emotional well-being. So with that, I mentioned therapy as well, but things like just rewiring your negative thought patterns. So using like a therapeutic modality like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, that can really help rewire those negative thought patterns that are just ruminate in your head. And then that actually creates a sense of like an unbalanced side of your brain. And so being able to shift those thoughts into more positive ones shifts your brain and also creates a more positive mindset. So that is something that is very helpful, and having someone walk alongside you in that process is like no other. And we are getting towards the end here, but I stands for immunity and infection. So this would be like your chronic infections, autoimmune disease. Those really affect your brain. So things like Lyme disease, or untreated dental infections, which we talked about earlier, they can have a massive impact on your cognitive function. So wanting to try to boost your immune system through a healthy lifestyle, good sleep, exercise, eating immune boosting foods like citrus fruits and even garlic, those are crucial for protecting your brain from these risks. Vitamin D is also a really great supplement to add. Most of us are usually deficient in that. And so being able to be aware and adding in that supplement can also help promote your immunity against all of the many things trying to take us down. N stands for neurohormonal issues. And Jesse did an amazing podcast a few weeks ago about hormones. And if you didn't listen to that, you should go back and listen to it, because I know I personally learned a ton from it. But your hormones play a huge role in how your brain works. Imbalances in hormones like your thyroid, estrogen, or testosterone, it can contribute to things like brain fog, memory issues, and mood swings. Can anyone have any testimony on that? Mood swings? Yes. So if you're feeling off, it definitely could be worth looking into to having a healthcare professional like get your hormone levels checked. That can be very valuable information, doing some blood work to see where you stand in that, because it could be that missing piece of the puzzle that you're just like, I'm doing all these things, I don't understand why I still feel off. And it could be your hormones. And so being able to find a provider that helps support that could be life-changing for you. By adding in, once you find if you have your levels off, so it could be having a supplement added, a medication, or again, more lifestyle changes, but all of those together can help support your brain function. D stands for diabetes. So this is actually a combination of diabetes and obesity. So both of which are linked to poor brain health. So the really good news, again, is that with certain lifestyle changes, which I'm like repeating myself over and over, diet and exercise, but you guys are getting how important that is. It can really help significantly reduce these risks. So a diet low in processed carbs and sugars paired with regular physical activity can help your blood sugar levels remain stable and protect your brain from damage. So you don't want to have those massive blood sugar spikes throughout the day. There are now a lot of processing that you can see, like those little machines that can help check your blood sugar. And there's even recipe creators out there that are specific to having creating recipes that are blood sugar balanced. And those are some that I really enjoy. So being able to say, okay, what are the things that are going to spike my levels and what are going to keep me stable is really important. And not only is that helping just your overall health, it's also helping protect your brain from damage. Okay, the final one is S, and it may be last, but it is very, very important. And the S stands for sleep. Sleep, you guys, it's really essential. It's essential for everything. I mean, we can all have a story about times when we didn't get a good night's sleep. And when we do that over and over, everything is harder. Like it's not possible to function at your maximum capacity if you're not getting good sleep. So not only does it make you feel bad, but your brain, if you're not getting good quality sleep, it can't clear out the necessary toxins. It can't process information. It's not going to be able to regulate emotions properly. It's not going to be able to say, okay, that feeling that I have, I know that that's passing. Instead, that feeling is going to come massive and it's going to feel like you can't control it. So really prioritizing your sleep hygiene. So things like sticking to a regular bedtime. Your body loves to know when to expect having your bedtime. So if you were someone that says, I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock tonight, but then the next night you're at 12 and then you're at 10 and then 11, your body does not know what to do with that. So really trying to stick to a regular bedtime routine, and bedtime is really helpful. Creating a relaxing pre-sleep routine. And so having something that's just going to signal to your body and your brain, okay, this is wind down time. So maybe it's having a cup of tea. Maybe it's getting a book, reading in bed, really trying to minimize that screen time before bed. And I know I'm guilty of that. But if that's something that is going to be stimulating your brain and it's helping you think, then that's not something that is going to should be used as like a relaxing pre-sleep routine. So doing something and just trying out different things. So there are also, eye masks. There are sleep meditations that you can do as well that are also really helpful to kind of help you get your brain in that rest mindset, because we know that that is what is going to help it function at its absolute best. Target is really 7 to 8 hours. That's what we should be getting. And if that's really hard for you and you're just like, I can't stay asleep, and if maybe have thought about like sleep apnea could be a struggle for you and that you snore a lot, get an evaluation, get some support for that, because there's definitely things that can be done to be able to help that, and so that you don't have to have a life sentence of having bad sleep. All right. That's it. That was our bright minds. Let me go recap that real quick. So B is your blood flow. R is retirement. I is inflammation. G is genetics. H is head trauma. T is toxins. M is mental health. I is immunity infections. N is neurohormonal issues. D is diabetes. And S is sleep. Okay, well, I hope that you were able to learn something from today's podcast and Dr. Amen's Bright Minds model for a healthy brain. And really, I feel like it's just empowering to realize, okay, we have so much influence on our brain health with like just doing some simple, consistent lifestyle changes. So what I want you to do is go back through and be able to say, which letters am I really strong on? Which do I feel like I've got a good handle on? And maybe what are some ones that I really need to focus on? And then just pick one area to focus in at a time. And then once you get a good handle on that, then you can go on to another one. And that's just what's called like the snowball effect. So as you start small and then you keep building on that, you're going to get momentum and you're going to want to keep doing that, because you're going to see and start to feel so much better. And you're going to know that like, hey, I'm doing all these things to help better my brain, which is going to have a massive impact on the way I show up in life. And so just doing those small, consistent things have a massive impact. So be aware of that. And I wish you all health and happiness. And if you found this episode helpful, we would love it if you would share it with someone, if you would subscribe. We also have really sharing a lot of valuable information on our Instagram page at Steadfast Christian Counseling. So check that out and reach out to us if you have any questions or if we can help support you in your mental health journey.